Joshua! Wow! Anthony Joshua! In an unbelievable round here!
I am the greatest.
Rashid, I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
It's showtime!
Hi and welcome back to the VAVEL Boxing podcast. Today we'll be previewing the weekend's events, which will be starting on Friday night with Billy Joe Saunders versus Martin Murray. And then we're looking at the Saturday fixtures of Lyndon Arthur versus Anthony Yarde and the Errol Spence versus Danny Garcia, which would be late in the morning as it's in America. We'll kick off with the big Sky Sports boxing on Friday night, which is Billy Joe Saunders with 29 fights, no losses against Martin Murray, 39 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw. It's a world title fight for Billy Joe Saunders, super middleweight world title. And it's a fairly big fight because we haven't seen Billy Joe Saunders in the ring for a while and he's been pushing for the big fights. It was well documented that Canelo was going to be his opponent if COVID hadn't hit. So he's in a place where he needs to look good and needs to win well. So just how important is this fight for him to look good and obviously to win, but to look good as well, make a statement?
Yeah, mate. Billy Joe is obviously a performer. I do rate Billy Joe as a boxer and that, but it's a good fight for him. He's obviously with Canelo and Callum Smith. They're ready to set up to their business, so he needs to look busy. He needs to stay ready. Billy Joe, good fight for him. Good domestic fight. He's been out of the ring for a while, and it'll be a test for him because it's the last chance saloon for Murray. It really is. Good test for him. And Billy Joe, I think he needs to perform, needs to do well, set him up for the big fights next year. But don't get me wrong, it's going to be a good test. It really is.
Yeah, Martin Murray's a tried and tested opponent, to say the least. I mean, he's 38 years old, definitely the last throw of the dice. It's been that's been the narrative all week. You know, this is his last chance. He's been to the top of the game. You know, he's had 4 world title challenges, 2 very close ones that maybe he should have won. And, you know, obviously bags of experience as well. And he's a very tough fight. So he went 11 rounds of Golovkin when Golovkin was in his prime, when he was just knocking people out and everyone was terrified to fight him. So it says a lot about the man. And, Billy Joe's got a huge fight in his hands. And obviously, you can put the comparison of Golovkin there, so he must be an incredibly tough opponent. But in looking back at Saunders' fights so far in the super middleweight division, when he fought in May 2019 and got a points win, but it wasn't a completely dominant performance. I mean, he looked really, really good first 6, and I think he got rocked in the mid to late rounds and sort of laboured to a win from there. But that got him the title. It was a vacant title, which he came through with. And then he looked very sluggish against Marcelo Caceres in America on the YouTubers undercard for Logan Paul KSI 2, which says a lot about the fight. You know, he was a world champion on the undercard of a YouTuber fight, but he only arrived in America for that fight a couple of days before the fight. You know, it was very poor prep, and he got the 11th round knockout, which was, in the end, it was a great knockout, but it was an awful fight for him. And that set him back again for not getting the big fights. And this is why he needs a big victory. I mean, does it have to be a knockout, or can it be a dominant points display?
I think a knockout, or at least a good points performance, at least, will see him through there. With Billy Joe, since he beat David Lemieux for his title back in the day,
I mean, that night,
last 2 performances, especially the YouTube one,
it
was he was a punching bag, and he still took it to the 11th round. Do you know what I mean? So,
I mean, the David Lemieux fight was probably the best performance of his career. You know, he took a guy who has got huge power and just made him look silly. You know what I mean? It was an incredible performance. I don't know if he's improved that much in 3 years, because he hasn't had the fights, which is worrying for a Billy Joe Saunders fan, because I know he's brilliant. He's got brilliant skills, but at that point he was calling out Canelo and Golovkin, and at the time you think he was bang up for that fight. He was ready. He was well in with a chance. But now it feels like with no huge fights in a couple of years, I get a bit worried thinking about him going in the ring with a Canelo, or even an aging Golovkin, to be honest. But he still will cause problems for anyone as a southpaw. He's slick, he's quick, he's hard to hit. He works hard in there, he's busy, he hurts you as well. not the biggest puncher, but he can put a lot of shots together. And at the end of the day, he loves to fight. When he gets dragged into a fight, he doesn't mind it. So like the Andy Lee fight, the Chris Eubank fight, he's got that in his locker as well. But it's been a while, and that's a big worry for me. But going forward, I mean, obviously he's the WBO world title holder, but looking at using his leverage as a world champion to go and fight. It's either the winner of Callum Smith and Canelo, which I think it will be Canelo. But obviously there's Caleb Plant as well, which is a fight that's literally not been mentioned at all, which says a lot about whether that fight probably won't be made. But the Canelo Smith winner, I think, has to be what he's looking at for maybe May next year. I think we get crowds back in, he gets a full press tour. That fight gets the build-up that it deserves. I think he'll do it then, because he didn't do it. He didn't go for this one because he only got a poor turnaround time and poor money. And Callum Smith took it on, which is fair play to him. But Billy Joe Saunders didn't want to take it, and I feel like that fight is in the future. Do you not think?
Yeah, you were saying earlier about Billy Joe Saunders hasn't looked good for a long time, and then you were saying about even the domestic clashes when he look exciting. But I think Billy Joe's got a lot to prove in this fight. But you said about with Alvarez, what was that? That should be going back 2017, 2018 when that was mentioned. And Callum Smith has gone and done his bit. Whereas Billy Joe, I'd really like to see Billy Joe just give it a full year and a half. I honestly think that if he could give a year or year and a half at top level, he'd be the best boxer in that super middleweight division, 100%.
Yeah.
He's got natural talent. He's such a similar character to Tyson Fury. And it seems weird to compare him to that.
No, definitely.
But, yeah.
I was thinking that as well. I always thought they're very similar, obviously both gypsies, but I mean, it's the way they fight. They have that really slick movement, both trained by Ben Davison for a bit. And I feel like he has to, those skills no one else has those skills, bar Canelo maybe, and that sort of head movement and that sort of variety. Yeah. Obviously, Golovkin just walks forward. Callum Smith's a big guy, uses range well, boxes at range, big right hand. And the rest don't have that. And I think he could do a number on. I think he's got a good chance against Canelo, but obviously I don't think he could stop Canelo. So I think he would end up losing on points because of how boxing is. But it's a huge fight if it does happen.
I'd like to see him have 12 months before, though, just to get him sharp and get him ready. Because I honestly do believe he's got the ability to do it. Almost like after this fight you were saying about Callum Smith, Alvarez, after that, I'd like to see him maybe have a fight, get him sharp again. You don't know how sharp he is, though. Obviously, we're speaking next Saturday. If he looks 10 out of 10 on Saturday, you'd say put him in the ring with Alvarez tomorrow. I really would. Oh, he's almost frustrating at times.
Yeah,
he really is.
He is, because he has so much talent, but I'm not sure he can afford to wait another year, because he had the Canelo fight locked in. He was in Las Vegas and ready to sign the contracts, and I don't think that's left his mind. Even in this fight now, I don't think he's gonna wait any longer. I think he's gonna try and get the winner of Smith Canelo, as quickly as possible. And I think that would be a April-May sort of fight. And I think he'll just go for it, because he's been waiting 3 years for this fight, and I don't think he'll wait any longer. And I don't think I can wait any longer either. So I want to see that next. Right. But hopefully he looks good in this fight. It's a great opponent to test him, and if he comes through against Martin Murray, then I'm confident that he can come through again, because great fighters raise the levels. By the way. Yeah, great very test. Good fight. Very good fight.
He's been beat by the best. Obviously lost, but Golovkin. But honestly, he's been tested by the best, Martin Merrin. It's his last chance saloon, isn't it? Last chance saloon, so.
It's dangerous. It's a dangerous opponent. So, very good fight. Looking forward to that. That's Friday night on Sky Sports main event. So look forward to that. On the Saturday, we roll on to BT Sport, and we roll on to Lyndon Arthur versus Anthony Yarde. Lyndon Arthur 17-0, and Anthony Yarde is 20 wins and 1 loss. They're fighting for the Commonwealth British Empire light heavyweight title, so it's an important fight. They're both well ranked in a few of the belts, especially Yarde. So it's a very big fight for both of them. A good English domestic clash, and a really good fight made by Frank Warren, and two very good fighters. Lyndon Arthur, very durable, very, very busy. And Anthony Yarde, obviously, you know what he brings to the ring: knockouts, body shots, the lion spirit. I mean, how much do you rate Anthony Yarde, just for a start?
Very highly. He had a really accelerated journey to the top, to be fair. We see 17 fights, but in a very short space of time, he was at the top. I really do rate Yarde. I really do. It's not even his boxing ability, it's his attitude. In a short space of time, he's raced to the top. And even then, he looks really tight. He's got a Tunde next to him, obviously. He looks really tight, boxes well, and obviously knockouts speak, don't they? Really. He can punch big, tidy boxer, good camp behind him, good group behind him. So yeah, I love the fella, to be fair.
I mean, he's had a very tough year with COVID. He lost 2 family members. He's a very motivational guy. Like where he trains, he helps a lot of the younger kids come through out of the tough parts of London where he came from. And I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a very, very likable guy. A lot of people might not like his coach as much. I mean, Tunde gets a lot of stick for how he is. But I listened to him on a podcast today, the Steve Bunce podcast, and I thought he was brilliant when he came on and talked. He was incredibly entertaining. He was saying that they don't train for fights. They don't go to fight camp. They stay in camp all the time. They never stop training. They don't ever switch off. That's their life. And I'm a big fan of that because it's different. It's different. You like seeing different characters, but I like that. Obviously, you have camps for fights. That's how it is for fighters. But for him to stay in shape the whole time and always be fixed on that. And if you haven't seen the spars that they have in the training, where he just gets his trainer to just try and hit him as hard as he can. And, the crazy spars, he trains like a lion, he trains like a warrior. And I feel like 19 knockouts out of 20 fights. He's got a lot of power. He's built up that boxing IQ a little bit more now. And what is important to remember that these 2 opponents have both shared an opponent very recently in Dex Spellman in the summer, and Anthony Yarde knocked him out in 6 rounds, got the stoppage, and Lyndon Arthur went 12 rounds with him and won on points. And do you think that's going to play a big part in this fight, or is it just something that, or do you just think that's an old fight and now they move on to this new fight?
I think with Arthur, to be honest, he's slept on a bit. He really is. He's a quiet fella, maybe not as loud as Yarde, but it's a good matchup, it really is. I do fancy Yarde, but in terms of saying about going 30 differences and stuff, Yarde's a big puncher, he really is. You don't know whether it's going to be a fight where it's going 12 rounds or whatever. It's a weird one, but I think that Yarde's fit enough as well. You can't say about Yarde going 12 rounds. Look how fit the lad is. As you were saying, he's training 24/7. I don't think that would affect him. I think that he's just got that natural power that will end fights. I imagine he'd like to go 100 rounds every weekend. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, sure. I think they're both fit lads. So I don't think that'll come into it that much. I think it'll be more based on boxing ability.
I mean, Lyndon Arthur, a great amateur career. He lost to Boazzi in the national finals before they all turned pro. So obviously he's got good pedigree. He's a bit of a warrior in there. He's come from a rough upbringing as well, and he fights. He just fights. He's an old school fighter. That's what they're saying on the podcast. He's an old school fighter, and I do envision this fight becoming a little bit of a war at some point. I can picture blood from both fighters. I can just picture it taking off at some point because Anthony Yarde loves to come forward. Lyndon Arthur's a bit of a back foot fighter. And for me, I feel like it's going to be... Anthony Yarde's going to have to find something in this fight that he hasn't found before other than the Kovalev fight. So I think this is a huge test for him. And it's a lot on the line as well. A lot on the line.
Yeah, I totally agree there. Obviously, as we were saying before, Yarde ascended to bottom level to... He had the Kovalev fight in, 17 fights, and that was a quick period, 2 or 3 years. With Arthur's going to be about his business quality, and I think it's going to be a test. It's going to be a test for Yarde. Sorry, you look at them both. Yeah, Arthur's fought through British level and that, and now he's taking this fight with being the massive underdog. Yarde on the other hand. People will go, oh, Yarde the walk through and whatever. Yarde loses this, and Arthur wins it. Where does that elevate him to? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's the point, because Yarde's ranked 4th in the WBO, and Arthur's 6th in that belt. And then Yarde's 10th and 9th in the IBF and WBC. So Yarde is highly ranked and Arthur isn't as highly ranked. So Arthur has so much to gain from this fight. He can take so many high positions. And a fight that I think is the next fight is a fight that everyone wants to see. Is Joshua Buatsi, because Joshua Buatsi is ranked really high in the IBF and WBA at number 2 and number 3. He's knocking on the door of a world title. Eddie Hearn wants to get him a world title next year, but an all British clash for who's the best light heavyweight in the country to go on and challenge for a world title after that fight has to be the fight next. And that is such a mouth-watering prospect. And I really, really hope it's Yarde fighting Buatsi and not Arthur. I think you'll see an improvement from Yarde in this fight from what you saw in the Kovalev fight. Pardon me, he'd have learned a lot from that fight. And it's the main reason for taking those big fights, you learn. So I feel like when the fight comes with Buatsi and Yarde, it will be the right time for both of them. But obviously that's a long way off. So before that, though, he has to take out Lyndon Arthur. And that is a big fight. And that is Saturday night.
So, isn't it? It's a big test.
Yeah, huge fight, Saturday night.
Everyone's writing him off.
Yeah, which is dangerous, very dangerous. Yarde ain't looking past him at all. So for me, it's set perfectly. It's a great fight and a great British fight that everyone must watch, which is free as well. So no excuses there from anyone. But I won't blame anyone for missing the Errol Spence Garcia fight, as it is obviously 4 a.m. It's a tough one to stay up for. But diehard boxing fans know that this is a huge welterweight clash with two. Well, Errol Spence, 2-belt world champion, and Danny Garcia, former 2-weight world champion. So it's a fantastic fight. Errol Spence, 26 wins, no losses, and Danny Garcia, 36 wins and 2 losses. So Errol Spence only wants to fight the best in the division. You know, he's fought Porter, now he's fighting Garcia, and obviously if he wins this, he wants to go and fight Crawford. So he's looking to, really make his legacy. This is a great fight for him to add to it. And obviously it's just a really good fight, but everyone needs to talk about, what's happened to Errol Spence since his last fight, which was the massive car crash he had, which obviously threatened his life completely, intensive care. And his first fight back is Danny Garcia, one of the best in the division. Is that a huge risk?
It's a massive risk, but it seems like Errol Spence takes a big risk, doesn't he? He really does. Danny Garcia has been one of the best over a period of almost 5 years now. He's fought top fighters. It's going to be a classic. It really is. It's a massive risk for Spence, but it's hard to sum up because why would Spence take that first fight back? Why would Garcia jump in with Spence? It's a crazy thing. But honestly, if you are watching, please stay up because it's really a good fight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're both brilliant fighters. I mean, I think Errol Spence is still massively underrated. I mean, I think he needs a win against the Crawford Spence fight would really help elevate one of those two to where they need to be in terms of pound for pound and how good. Because I feel like he's incredible. He's at the wins over Kell Brook, obviously, and Sean Porter was the huge clash he had last year for them when they both had a world title belt, and it was a fun the fights of the year. It was all action. Errol Spence showed a bit of everything that night. He showed his chin, he showed his variety of punches, he showed his power when he put Sean Porter down with a huge left hook. Obviously not completely down, but enough for him to go take the knee, etc. But it was a great fight, and I feel like this is going to take to on. I don't know if Garcia is probably same level as Porter because those two have fought before. Obviously, Danny Garcia lost to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter on points by split decision both times. And the verdict is that he didn't throw enough punches in the fight. He was very competitive and did a lot to obviously get to 12 rounds and be very close to winning. But if he threw more punches, he may be unbeaten now and be a much bigger name because he hadn't thrown those punches. So he comes into this with, he needs a win here because it's a long way back for him. Because if he loses this, then you're going to see Spence Crawford, and which means all the world title belts are going to be held up for a while, and he's going to have to maybe rematch a Porter or go down a bit lower. And so it's a huge fight for him. How can Garcia pull off the unimaginable?
To me, it's not unimaginable because I think they're both top-level fighters in a very stacked division. You see that Spence's obviously came through against Porter. Garcia lost to Porter and Thurman. But I think it's a lot tighter than people think in that division. The top skills to the top men of that division compared to the challengers, it's not that far away. It's a really stacked division, it really is. But maybe Garcia's got more to lose. I think that Spence, either way, gets his fight against Crawford. Garcia wins, then who knows what happens? He elevates himself onto a whole different level, doesn't he?
When you said there, Errol Spence will get the Crawford fight anyway. If he loses his fight, isn't everyone going to talk about that he wasn't ready?
Yeah, true. I don't think he's going to buy that. I see him as a fella, and I don't think he'll take that buyout because he hasn't got that, has he? He's got his 26 wins, never been beaten. They can say, I think people will jump on that, but I don't think he will. He comes across as a type of character that will want to say, yeah, I did lose, and then go and fight Crawford. If he beats Crawford, no matter what, because I imagine Bud Crawford would take the piss out of him. Saying the same thing. This is the best thing about this division. It's so stacked of good fighters, of young and old coming up. It's crazy. Great division.
Yeah, I think that's what we want in boxing. You want to see the best fight the best, and that's why Errol Spence is a great guy to get behind. He's one of my favourite guys to watch because he does fight the best, and he will fight anyone, and he just wants to tick off everyone. He's ticked off Porter, next is Garcia. He could have took an easy touch for this fight, but he didn't, which shows a lot about the man. Clearly, he's the only person who really knows how he's feeling is himself. And if he backs himself, he didn't have to take this fight. He didn't have to. He's still quite young, he's got time. But he didn't. He went straight into it. So that means we have to back him as he is. And he's the same Errol Spence, which he must be. Otherwise, he wouldn't have took the fight. His coaches and trainers wouldn't have let him. But obviously, he is fine. He's fine to fight. Is he exactly the same? Maybe not. Maybe he's a little bit worse. But I still think him being a little bit worse than he was against Porter still gets a win here. And Errol Spence versus Crawford is what people want to see. People don't want to see Danny Garcia versus Terence Crawford. They might want to see it a little bit, but they don't want. It's nowhere near as big as Errol Spence coming in with
if Garcia does him in, that's all it is, isn't it?
I want to see Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. I want to see Joshua Buatsi versus Anthony Yarde. I want to see Billy Joe Saunders versus Canelo. These are fights we want to see, but everyone always looks ahead before they look past the first fight. And after this weekend, just gone with Joe Joyce, Daniel Dubois, you can't do that. You can't look forward. So this is the fights now. 3 big fights this weekend. They're all these fights are leading to something. That's what I like about this weekend. They're all leading to something else. And we know that 2021 is going to be a huge year for boxing. Fans are already coming back for the AJ Pulev, 1,000 people coming in as a start. But we know we want them big fights, and people are anxious to get them now. And people have fought over the pandemic as well, which has helped accelerate things as well. We could still be a couple of steps back, but people are fighting. We're moving on. And 2021, for these fighters, for the 3 winners of this fight, whether they go into rematches, which they unlikely that they would in their circumstances, we want to see them fight the best. I want to see it as soon as possible. So just go for 3 quick predictions for the fights this weekend. Just run through Billy Joe first, Anthony Yarde, and then Errol Spence.
But for me, I think Saunders gets his win there.
By points?
Yeah, he's that type of fighter, and I think he will get on points. I think Yarde will prove a bit too experienced out there. I think he'll finish him late on, past 6. I think it might go past 6. With Spence and Garcia, to be honest, I think Garcia's slept a bit on, but I think Spence will get that on decision.
Yeah, very similar there. I'm going to go with Billy Joe on points. I think it'll be a good victory. I think it'll be a comfortable victory.
He'll look sharp.
I think he'll look good. Yeah, I think he'll win by unanimous decision. Anti-Yarde late stoppage. I'm going to go a lot later. I'm going to go like 9 to 12 rounds because I think Lyndon Arthur is so tough. It could very conceivably be on points.
I'll call you around then. Go on for next week when they listen. What round are you calling?
ninth round.
I'll go 10. You know.
Yeah, I can see it, like, because they're not. It's going to be so tough. Honestly, like I said, it's that or points. I mean, I really do fancy Andy Yarde to win. I don't think Lyndon Arthur's got enough firepower. We saw that against Dex Spellman, so I'm going to go with that. And then obviously Errol Spence to win on points, same way did Porter. Really, I think Danny Garcia would fall short just again. If he fell short those other 2 times, I think that's a measure of where he is in that elite level. I think he's just always going to fall short. I don't think it's a case of, we should have thrown more punches against Thurman and Porter. You don't tell a fighter to throw more punches, especially someone as aggressive as him. So I think it'll be a very good looking fight. It'll be very good to watch in terms of the skills, but I think he'll just fall short again. So I expect the favourites to come through, and I expect Anthony Yarde, Billy Joe Saunders, and Errol Spence to come through this weekend. And then Monday we'll be talking about what those fights mean for the future and, how good it is, as opposed to, wow, what a shock for the weekend. But it's boxing. You never know what's going to happen. And I look forward to all 3 fights, as of course you do as well. And like I said, we'll be back on Monday looking at the results of those 3 fights and looking ahead to what would be a huge Saturday night after that, of Anthony Joshua coming back to the ring. So plenty to look forward to. Thanks for joining me again. And yeah, we'll be back on Monday to review these 3 fights. Stay tuned this weekend, Friday night on Sky Sports and Saturday night on BT, and then Sunday morning for the Errol Spence fight. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.